Chris Mannix for the crossover alongside Rowan Ned Carney and Howard Beck. Guys, we have some idea of what the first round matchups are going to look like. So, Howard, which is the one that you're looking forward to the most?
Chris, it's got to be Bucks Heat, the rematch of that second round series from last year in the bubble. Remember, the Milwaukee Bucks had the best record in the East last year. They go into that matchup against a Heat team that had gone into the playoffs as a fifth seed, and the Heat smoked them 4-1. It wasn't even close. The Heat won the first three games. It was 3-zip. Of course, no one's ever come back from 3-zip in a best of seven in the NBA. The Bucks had the East best record, 12 more wins than Miami, but they couldn't get enough out of Giannis. He averaged less than 22 points a game in that series. Chris Middleton was their leading scorer, and Butler and Goran Dragic just wrecked the Bucks. Now it's a different Heat team and a different Bucks team, especially. They got Drew Holiday instead of Eric Bledsoe. They've got PJ Tucker now. And this Bucks team, while not as impressive in the regular season, probably is better suited to not have history repeat against Miami. And Miami's been a little bit shaky or up and down this season. So I'm not saying it'll have we'll get the same tenor of series or the same outcome, but the intrigue is certainly there, especially when it comes to things like how long will it take before Giannis goes and guards Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think Howard's right. That'll definitely be a great series. I got my eye on the Nuggets and Blazers matching up in the first round. A lot of storylines there. I mean, these teams have kind of had a little bit of a bad blood, a little bit of a rivalry ever since Yusuf Nurkic was traded to the Blazers to kind of make way for Nikola Jokic in Denver. 2 years ago, they played a great seven-game series in the second round. Nurkic didn't play in that series. This one's not going to have Jamal Murray, but Aaron Gordon's been great in Denver. Michael Porter Jr. is playing some of the best basketball of his life. Obviously, you have Dame and CJ and the explosive backcourt in Portland. I think it's going to be a lot of offense. I think there's going to be legitimate bad blood. And it's going to be really fascinating to see early on just what Denver looks like in the playoffs without Jamal Murray. They've been great down the stretch of the regular season without him. I think some people still look at them as a contender. I know me personally, I thought their title hopes were done as soon as Murray went out, but they've been playing really well. Jokic, obviously the favorite to win MVP. So it's going to be both an early look at the Nuggets and I think a very, very entertaining series.
Wait, Rowan, can I go back to you for a second? I agree, entertaining series, but bad blood between the Nuggets and Blazers? What? Am I
Oh my
missing?
God,
What
come
happened
on, dude. Like Nurkic was bragging a few years ago and they knocked him out of the playoffs. There's a thing there. There's a thing there.
Right. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a little bit of animosity between those two teams. But I don't know how you guys don't name the Clippers and Mavericks as the series to watch. I mean, we are once again hearing about the title hopes of the LA Clippers. This is their year. This is the year that they don't choke in the playoffs. This is the year that it all comes together for the Clippers, that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, elevate their games to take the Clippers to that promised land. They've got a new dynamic in place. I heard that last week from some of our colleagues in Tyronn Lue as the head coach. They got a new point guard in Rajon Rondo. But how many times have we heard about the Clippers adding a dimension, this being the year? We heard it like in 2015 with Lob City. We heard it last year with the addition of Kawhi Leonard. Both those times, the Clippers came up short. I am looking, Rohan, to see what happens when the Clippers get punched in the mouth. If the Mavericks go up 2-1 against them, which is distinctly possible, this is a rematch of a playoff series last year, and the Mavericks know that if they had Kristaps Porzingis for the duration of that series, they might have had a shot there. If the Clippers get punched in the mouth, how do they respond? Who is the leader in that locker room? Who steps up? To me, the Clippers are a fascinating case in the first round.
Oh, it's going to be a referendum on the Clippers one way or another this postseason. It's going to be a referendum on Paul George, who, to his credit, has had a great regular season. He's responded as well as he could have to what happened in the bubble, but he's going to have to prove it come playoff time. You're right. They're banking big on chemistry. That's why they brought in Serge Ibaka, who hasn't played a lot the second half of the season. It's why they brought in Rondo. It's why they made the coaching change. They're betting on all those things. It's funny, Chris. I think the expectations are still high for the Clippers, but the way their season ended last year, they've fallen out of the national conversation entirely. I don't think people are taking them anywhere near as seriously as they did last year. If they lose again, people are going to start asking questions, including about Kawhi, whose playoff reputation up until this point has been pretty sterling.
Howard, is it a bad look for the Clippers to effectively tank their last regular season game to basically avoid, or at least try to avoid, the Lakers in their bracket?
I mean, were they tanking? Were they just trying to not get Kawhi and Paul George and other guys injured before the playoffs? Was it load management? Who's to say? I don't know.
No. You tank when you can't beat Oklahoma City. When you let Poku go off like that, you are tanking. I'm sorry.
Poku stick.
Yeah.
Look, I obviously think it's a bad look for the Clippers to appear, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that they're trying to avoid the Lakers. It doesn't make you look particularly bold and confident. And I do think there is some sense that there are the ghosts of the bubble still chasing this team. But Chris, I don't think you can hold like Lob City over them. You know, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George had nothing to do with the failures of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. So it's a different group. This really is only their second year together, and they were both truncated seasons because of the pandemic. So we really haven't seen a fully functioning, in rhythm, familiar Clipper team anchored by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Rondo just got there. He's certainly an upgrade in terms of having that playmaker that we all said all along they needed in late game situations. So now we'll see. They've been together long enough. They have the point guard and playmaker who can orchestrate down the stretch of games if it's tight. No excuses at this point for them. So, yeah, going to be really interesting to see if they are legitimately better than what everybody now views them as.
I want to see some bad blood, Rohan. Marcus Morris, Luka Doncic. That's real bad blood. That's going to be physical in this postseason. For more, check us out over at SI.com.